Oh, they good.
Everything.
Turn radio on. Retro FM. It's where you're at.
Welcome back to it. You're listening to The Front Row with me, Refile, standing in for Bonang today. Well, we're talking today the uncertainties of car finance. Now, your decision to own a flashy car today probably won't be what you really need in a couple of years, especially after you find out that you're having twins. So today we're chatting to Rudolph from WesBank about the uncertainties of car finance and how life-changing events actually affect your car buying journey later on. That's something to think about. And as always, if you're uncertain about car finance, go to the WesBank Asset Finance Facebook page and at WesBank on Twitter with the hashtag WesBankHowTo, a hashtag to get your questions in. Rudolph, welcome to the front row. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing so well. Thanks for having me back.
It's great to have you in studio. First of all, my Facebook timeline is crowded with friends who are having babies. It's just, I guess that time in our lives. How does starting a family influence your car finance, Rudolph?
Yeah, so firstly and most importantly, you might need to buy a bigger car if you're having a baby or sometimes having two babies. Mm-hmm. So it's all about the timing. When you buy a car, you're in for a 5-year commitment. And we know that cars depreciate quite a lot, especially in the first 2 years of your loan term. So you might be in a situation where you owe more money to the bank than what the car's worth because of this depreciation. So you need to keep that in mind. And it's all about planning for these events. So if you need to get out of a car that you can't really get out of, you need to speak to the bank and speak to the dealerships in order to look for some kind of an assistance package for them to help you settle your loan. Or alternatively, plan a little bit better so that you can get out of the car and have your dream family.
Now, Rudolph, I've also noticed, speaking of Facebook, some divorcees on my Facebook timeline. So we're jumping from growth to a different kind of change in your life. Tell us how getting divorced can actually become a complication if you, like you referred to, have that 5-year car finance agreement.
I think divorce mostly impacts you from a financial perspective. You were living in a house, you had 2 incomes, and now you need to split, and there's only 1 income, and you've got all the other associated costs that you need to carry. So obviously your budget will mainly be impacted, and we find that a lot of our customers, they need to downscale their car in order to free up some cash for the other living expenses. So you just need to keep in mind if your marital contract. Were you married within community of property or outside of community of property?
Sheesh, all these things to consider. Eh?
Yeah, because the car can actually become an asset of the estate. So the lawyers will need to decide what to do with the car if you were married inside community of property, and it becomes an agreement between you and your ex-spouse. So before you want to sell your assets, you need to actually speak to your attorney so that you get the correct advice. That's mainly the biggest risk in terms of going through a divorce.
Okay. Now, I've got a question from Boitshwaro Molefe on Facebook who says, my friend took advantage of the low interest rates and then the interest rate changed. Now, what should Boitshwaro's friend do?
Yeah, so interest rates is also, you need to consider the interest rate when you buy the car. You can either choose to have a fixed rate or a linked interest rate at the point where you sign the contract. Mm-hmm. So a fixed interest rate means that whether interest rates goes up or down, your installment for the car will remain the same for the whole of the contract term. Uh-huh. A linked interest rate means that it will go up or down the way the Reserve Bank changes interest rates. So it's a decision that you need to make upfront before you sign the contract. Now, if you opted for a linked interest rate, and after a few months interest rates goes up quite a lot, and you find yourself difficult to pay the installments of the car, then you need to make contact with your bank and tell them exactly what the situation is, and for the bank to give you the correct advice. You can also try and sell the car for something that's cheaper. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that you are able to get out of the transaction without owing anything to the bank, or you can just sell the car outright to a dealership. So there's a couple of options, but the best advice is for you to contact your bank before your debit order starts returning. That's the most important thing.
Okay, so I'm hearing that contacting your bank at all times is pretty much the go-to standard thing, right? It makes sense. So they know what's happening with you.
Exactly, and people mustn't be embarrassed about it. It's just a business transaction that's not going according to plan. It's not a reflection on you as an individual. You must take the embarrassment out of it. That's the main thing that what we find where people don't want to phone the bank to say, listen, I need help, or there's a problem or whatever. It's embarrassing to talk about these things, and we want to try and get that out in the open to say it's not embarrassing.
Yeah.
You must address it head on. That's the best way for you to manage your own situation.
Fantastic. Now, of course, unfortunately, the economy isn't doing too well, and more companies are retrenching. At Peter B tweeted WesBank right after he got retrenched, asking what is the next step that he should take. What should the next steps be?
Man, Peter, I'm sorry to hear about that. But that's just one of the realizations of life.
Yeah.
These things happen, and the economy isn't doing great. So before you buy a car, you can consider a whole range of insurance options that the finance person at the dealership will discuss with you. And one of them is, of course, retrenchment cover. So basically what this does for you is if you've opted for the cover, then it will cover your installments for up to 6 months.
Oh, lovely.
Now 6 months is quite handy if you're looking for a job and you need your car for transportation. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. But once again, if you didn't opt for the retrenchment cover, then you need to contact the bank and tell them exactly what's going on. So the bank can give you the correct advice. You can also try, once again, as we said earlier, to try and sell the car or trade the car for something that's cheaper. Or if the worst situation comes to mind, then you can also consider giving the car back to the bank, and then we will sell it at auction. And then the money will go into the whatever is left on your account. And then if there's any shortfall balance due to the bank, then you can make an offer to the bank to repay that money over a period of time. And after you've paid off that money, then your credit record will then be restored and you can then opt for finance again.
So there are always options, guys. Okay, and before we wrap up, security is always an issue, especially if you're driving, one of those cars that most robbers want, right? If cash is tight and you decide to cancel your car insurance and your tracker, this can become a financial risk. Rudolph, tell us what listeners should rather do instead of cancelling that insurance or getting rid of the tracker.
Yeah, so can you believe it's more risky not having insurance than actually what the risk is. So when you sign your contract, you are obliged to always have the car comprehensively insured. Okay, that's the most important thing. So actually cancelling the insurance, you're breaching your contract.
Okay.
You're putting yourself and then other people at risk as well. So if you are in an accident and you cause an accident, then you could possibly damage someone else's assets, and you are liable to fix that if you are the cause of the accident. So placing yourself at financial risk, but then also placing other people at financial risk as well. So if you cannot afford your insurance, then obviously you need to contact your bank, because they can offer you alternatives. WesBank has a policy called an outstanding debt policy, especially that would be put in place for people who fall into arrears and can't afford installments. So this policy basically covers the outstanding balance on your account. So it doesn't cover the asset, only the balance on your account. So if your car was written off or stolen, that it's a complete loss, then this policy will settle the outstanding money on your account. But it's not a replacement for comprehensive cover. So when your financial situation improves again and you can afford it, then we cancel this outstanding debt policy, and then you need to reinstate your comprehensive insurance cover.
All right, fantastic. Rudolph, thank you so much. That's Rudolph from WesBank joining us in studio. Thank you so much for coming in and just letting us know what our options are, because I think so often people think there is no help out there, and like you said, feel ashamed of their financial position. So in short, the car you're looking at right now might be perfect today. It's fast, it has 2 doors and a sunroof, and you've decided to pay back the bank in 5 years. You also picked a linked interest rate because the lending rate was low. You're a responsible driver, and you got comprehensive insurance with a tracker. But don't forget that in 3 years, this could be you. You could be expecting twins, still with that 2-door car. You need to sell your car to upgrade for a family car. The interest rate just went up, and now you owe more on the car repayments, and you're in a financial bind. Cancelling your car insurance has even crossed your mind in order to help you save some bucks. Now, these are just some of the uncertainties of car insurance. 5 minutes really isn't enough time to cover it all. If you're still not sure how to structure your car loan and have a hashtag WesBank how to question, ask Rudolph and the team on Twitter. Just at WesBank or comment on the WesBank Asset Finance Facebook page. We only briefly touched on the car insurance this week. On the next show, we'll be telling you exactly how to insure your wheels.
Ah, they're good.
Everything.
Turn Radio Metro FM. It's where you're at.